shaping the future of Columbus City parks over the next 10 years.
We have in our inventory 452 parks.
Wow.
And so when people think about parks just within the city of Columbus, that's a large number. Right. But it's not enough.
So we dive deep into Playbook Columbus and the big, bold plans the city is hoping to put into place as the region booms. Plus, the first LinkUS progress report is out, and we're getting a better look at what's coming online and when.
So we're looking at a line for possibly Dublin to OSU through Hilliard, and we'll probably bring that sometime in September of next year to our customers.
And the city of Columbus wants voters to approve a nearly $2 billion bond. Find out where your money is going and why city leaders say it will not increase your taxes. Central Ohio certainly is booming. We all see it and we all feel it. So here's what we uncovered this week in Boomtown.
I ended up being homeless because I didn't see quite eye to eye with my parents. We love each other, but our situations were a little bit different.
More young people experiencing homelessness as affordable housing gets tougher to find. It is a real challenge here in Central Ohio as we embrace nearly 1 million more people in the years ahead. Thanks so much for joining us for This Week in Boomtown. I'm Angela Ann. So let's start with headlines from this week. A new CEO to lead one of Ohio's most recognizable brands. Daniel Heath is now taking over at Bath & Body Works. The former Nike executive was in charge of 45,000 employees in 9,000 stores all across 41 countries while there. Bath & Body Works noted that business for Nike more than doubled its revenue in the 5 years while it was led by Heath. Well, this week, the OSU College of Nursing announced it will operate a clinic inside the new Eastland Prosperity Center. Now, this is the space that was once home to the Kroger store on Refugee Road. It's a much-needed healthcare hub that will be run by the Mid-Ohio Food Collective, helping to meet the growing needs of people in that part of East Columbus. And the Downtown Columbus Commission this week gave a developer the green light to transform the old YMCA into affordable housing. So we're talking 121 units coming to the corner of Front and Long Streets.
The 2022 Downtown Strategic Plan placed an emphasis on affordable housing at a variety of income levels downtown. So we really wanted to make sure that we honored that goal of that plan, and that's what led us here today.
So the apartments are expected to be ready for renters in 2027. Well, this week, we saw the first LinkUS progress report since the day voters passed it back in November. It shows how COTA plans to use the extra revenue from an increased sales tax to make your transportation easier. So we're talking late-night bus service now running past midnight on key routes. Also, design work nearly complete for the West Broad and East Main Street BRT lines, with construction set to begin next year. And the Northwest Bus Rapid Transit line just secured federal approval to move forward. Plus, there are 83 other projects now funded to help build 150 miles of sidewalks, trails, and bikeways all across Central Ohio. So, of course, this all goes back to the new funding from the LinkUS levy passed in November. It's expected to raise $8 billion in the next 25 years. Along with expanding weekend routes in September, COTA wants to really improve bus times down to every 15 to 30 minutes. Now, looking even further into the future, there are plans to potentially expand routes throughout the campus area up into Dublin once that new funding kicks in.
That's probably going to match up about the time that our first bus rapid transit line is put into service, which should be in 2028. So our goal is to get us to a 24-hour service so it matches up with our new rapid transit when that starts coming online.
Sounds pretty exciting, right? Well, we know transportation and housing really goes hand in hand. And this week, Columbus Mayor Andrew Ginther asked City Council to create a new division of housing stability. This would really focus on new ways to support tenants and strengthen enforcement of housing protections. Now, we know the scope of challenges facing the city are vast, and one of those is the number of youth experiencing homelessness. 10 TV's Carla Rogner shows us how One Columbus agency is hoping to help.
This is the kitchen area right here. We always have to wear gloves. I used to rely on my mom to cook and my father to cook a lot, and this has taught me how to be a good cook.
At 21 years old, Keith Goodman is getting used to doing things for himself.
I ended up being homeless because I didn't see quite eye to eye with my parents. We love each other, but our situations were a little bit different.
So he's been at Star House, learning about Medicaid, SNAP benefits, and trying to find a job.
I'm trying to make sure I can get out of here and get the finances where it needs to be.
It's the same story for many young people who are homeless in Columbus. Last year, Star House helped more than 1,600 young people between the ages of 14 and 24. That's double the number they served in 2021.
How long have you been homeless?
About 8-9 months.
For 22-year-old Savion Ragland, it was unresolved mental health issues that cost him an apartment and a job. Now he's getting therapy and trying to regain independence.
I didn't know what was wrong with me. I didn't know how to handle my trauma or anything, and I'm trying to figure that all out now.
Star House promises to provide immediate help for everyone at any time. But lately, CEO Ann Bischoff says it's a hard promise to keep.
Our gym is no longer just a gym. We've pushed seating throughout, and we have gym hours in the afternoon. We have to expand.
The answer to more space is this former church, St. Ladislaus, which closed 2 years ago. Star House is trying to raise $10 million to open a second drop-in center for youth here on the south side.
This is the kitchen. This is twice the square footage of our current facility. We need this center not only to meet the unique needs of young people living around the South Side, but also to offset any sort of capacity issues that we're having at our current center.
Bischoff says the need is only growing because of Central Ohio's housing crisis.
We are greatly concerned about the humanitarian crisis that could ensue if additional housing isn't provided for young people in our community.
Without stable housing, Bischoff says it's hard to keep a job. But with some help from Star House, people like Keith
Yes, indeed.
remain hopeful that they'll get back on their feet.
This is a stop in the road. It's not forever, but yeah.
Reporting in Columbus, Carla Rogner, 10 TV News.
$1.9 billion. That is how much the Columbus mayor is asking voters to approve in a new bond. This is the largest bond the city has ever put on the ballot, but it's something the mayor says is greatly needed if we're to keep up with our booming population. Here's 10 TV's Tara Jabor with more on how this funding will work.
This November, the city of Columbus will ask voters for $1.9 billion.
Bonds give our city the resources we need to improve and support our neighborhoods. When a city stops investing in itself, it risks falling behind.
Here's a breakdown of how that money will be used. $500 million for affordable housing, $500 million for public utilities, $400 million for public service, $250 million for recreation and parks, and $250 million for safety, health, and infrastructure.
It's about streets that we drive on, it's about the water that we drink, the homes that we live in, and the services that we all depend on every day.
When it comes to housing, the city says the money will be used to renovate old affordable housing and build new units.
We know we need 200,000 more units in the region over the next 10 years, and I've committed to 100,000 right here in the city of Columbus, and this will help us go towards that.
Leah Evans with Homeport, a builder of affordable housing, says housing is the foundation of a strong and healthy community.
Data tells us that access to housing is critical to physical health, economic mobility, and educational attainment.
So how will this bond not increase your taxes? The city says it will sell the bonds to investors, then pay them back with income tax money.
We use it to build fire stations, police stations, community centers, sidewalks, affordable housing, parks, pools, roads, and more.
We are now taking a look at a new vision plan for Columbus City Parks. It's called Playbook Columbus, and it's really a roadmap for the future of services, parks, and facilities, all within the capital city. So this 10-year vision plan is being led by the Director of Recreation and Parks, Bernita Reese. Thank you so much for being with us here on Boomtown.
Thank you for having me. It's wonderful.
We're really excited to talk about this because many people don't realize, but there are more than 400 public parks in the capital city?
You know what? Right now we have in our inventory 452 parks.
Wow.
And so when people think about parks just within the city of Columbus, that's a large number.
Right.
But it's not enough. We still have to look at how do we create green spaces for people in the future.
And so that's what's really driving this new effort for your 10-year vision, because we know that the growth in Columbus is happening. We're expecting nearly 1 million more people to move to Central Ohio over the next 2 decades. So when you say, how do we make the space for that many more people, what are you looking at?
You know, it's a number of things we look at. It is water features. It's also just, I would say, passive green spaces, but then it's also active green spaces. And so, you know, how do we get people outdoors, not necessarily into a facility, but making sure that they're out, they're enjoying just nature, the environment, and then creating resiliency for our community.
Absolutely. And so you've been meeting with the public, trying to hear from them. What are you hearing? What are people telling you this is what we really want?
You know, we started last year on this project, and it was wonderful because when you go to different communities, you hear different needs. People have an opportunity to voice their opinions. What are they looking for? We heard about aquatics facilities. We also heard people say we'd like better playgrounds. But one thing we heard was our seniors. How do we provide for our seniors? And so when you look at the ages of what we are doing and who we are providing for, it's a number of people, all from different backgrounds, different ages, just meeting the needs of the Columbus community.
That's a lot of needs that you have to meet, though.
A lot of needs.
So how do you prioritize? Because I looked at your vision plan, and you did have a few things that you called the big moves, right? You talked about a new indoor aquatics facility in Northeast Columbus.
Yes.
Talk about how you came to that strategy. Why there and why not elsewhere?
You know, the one thing that people looked at, and it was aquatics was our #1 need from what we saw when we surveyed. We surveyed and had over 6,000 engagements from surveys and online communications, live communications. And so we started looking at the corridor of Northeast because we had a large group of individuals coming to our current aquatics facility. There were over 4,000 people coming from the Northeast corridor and really meeting that need downtown. And so we said, why not bring it to them? And so when we started looking at that corridor, it was, I would say, something that was magical. We had to look at, first of all, where's the space that we could really obtain? And so we're working with our schools, Columbus City Schools, and looking at how do we kind of swap land, really make a true collaboration, and then creating also a curriculum for elementary children.
Oh, so it's almost all-encompassing, a one-stop shop for recreation and parks.
It will be a one-stop shop. You know, we're starting this fall with schools, not in the Northeast corridor, but in another geographical area where we're looking at third graders. How do we bring them into our current aquatics facility and start teaching them water safety and how to swim? And so when we start this year, it just carries on into the new facility. And then we're able to expand it. And so it's a great opportunity for not just the community, but also for our young people that are in school.
Some of your other big moves, Director, talked about looking at improving parks. I love the emphasis on environment, right? Helping planet Earth. You have pollinator gardens that you want to bring up. Kind of give me a bigger picture then of what these big moves could really look like in 10 years.
You know, one of the things I would say conservation. And so when we talk about conservation, pollinators and our environment, it's really creating sustainability and looking at resiliency for the community. These are all wellness initiatives. You know, how do we create that pollinators? So it's reducing some of those health, I would say, challenges that we have. And so those are all different means of what we have. Even our urban forestry master plan, tree canopy, that is something that sometimes people don't think about, but how do we look at trees being really an asset for our community? And so those are a couple of things when we start talking about the environment. It's just really looking at it from a different perspective, I think with a different eye, and that is creating a tool that could last a lifetime of wellness for the community.
I love that. A few takeaways that I know you've been holding meetings with the public, trying to hear from them. A lot of people talk about something that I'm sure you hear a lot of over and over again, right? So they want safety, cleanliness of the parks, more programs, like you said, for seniors that offer affordability, but also accessibility. So how are you identifying more of these and really trying to address those between now and 10 years from now?
You know, there are service gaps that we have. We're aware of that. We heard it from our community. We've studied it ourselves. And so how do we meet that need? We have a program called Centers Without Walls. So we're partnering with nonprofits. We're partnering with schools. We're looking at areas where there are gaps and going in and doing service programming for those communities. And so we may not have a facility there, but how do we provide still an initiative of programming there? That's something that I think is an asset. We are far, far west doing after school programming and doing pop-up programs throughout the summer. And these are ways for us to really kind of close those gaps on our communities, but then also looking at those communities that don't have facilities and how do we go in and provide that? I think in the longevity of making sure that services are there.
Yeah. Long term, more people coming, that means you have to hire more people. And we know that's been a challenge, not just for you, but really all around. And we have so many great pools, but we know over the years, some can't open, not enough lifeguards. What are you doing to help address that job shortage?
You know, I would say volunteerism is so important in our department. As I talked about, having more than 450 parks. We couldn't do this without our volunteers. And so it takes people from the community stepping in to help us. And we have a large volunteer program. And that's one asset for us. And then we also look at how do we kind of bring different initiatives, being innovative when we're doing some of our hiring. Sometimes you have to look at young people, you got to look at seniors. There's a lot of seniors that have lifeguarded over the years, coming back into the pool area and lifeguarding for us. And so we're excited about it because they're able to teach the young people something.
Yeah.
And that's a big, big initiative that we're really looking at. So it's hiring people to make sure that we fill those needs as well.
They make great role models too, right?
Oh gosh, they're great role models. You know, that's the one thing. They're able to come in and not only teach, I would say, lifeguarding, but they teach us life lessons.
Yeah.
And so those are wonderful things that we take along with us throughout the summer.
And the bonds they build are so special too.
They are.
So give me the timeline then. Right now you're trying to gather input from the public, which again, really, like this is your chance to have your voice, right? When you always tell people, don't complain, you got to speak up on the front end, right?
Most definitely.
What comes next?
You know, the next thing that comes is our goals. And that is what the people are saying. We have to hear what they're wanting throughout, I think, this plan. And so it's outlining everything, putting it together. Once we put that together, it's open houses. And so we're doing those open houses now. They run to the end of this month of May. And so we are hearing more of the needs of what people are saying that they want to look forward to. And then once we get all that information, we're putting it together and then we're acting on it. We're not just putting a booklet together. This is about action plans. This is about how do we improve our services, about excellence of services to this community. And we want to make sure it's ours.
Yeah.
So why not make it the best?
I love it. Do you have a target start date for that?
You know what? We are starting right away.
We
haven't just pushed it aside.
Yeah.
We already started. And so the one thing we heard people saying aquatics, think about it. We're already looking at a new aquatics facility.
Yeah.
And so we've already started within hearing the needs of what people are looking for.
Well, the boom is certainly here in Central Ohio, and it's great to see how Columbus Recreation Parks is on top of it, you know.
Thank you so much.
You.
We're excited about it as well.
Director, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Well, of course, the city wants to hear from you. So these dates are the final feedback sessions where you can have your voice heard. We do have more information on 10tv.com/featured links. And we want to hear from you as well. If you have questions related to Central Ohio's rapid growth, or maybe you want us to look into something for you, just text us your questions and concerns at this number, 614-460-3345. And if you're watching us on our YouTube channel, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Then you can always drop your questions right there in the comment section, and we'll do our best to respond. We do hope you enjoyed This Week in Boomtown. I'm Angela Ann. We'll see you next week.